When I share my story, it's about more than solving the mysteries of our solar system. I represent the curious spirit of the nation, the Choctaw Nation. I am our past. I am our present. I am our future. I am all of us. When we share, we become one because our stories make us more. Stories keep our culture alive. See them and share them at togetherwe'remore.com.
People don't know what it is to be champions. Oklahoma invented it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Through the Keyhole. It's another week, but guess what? Still raining. So the day is different, the week is different, the time is different, but Oklahoma City is still underwater. Just like, it's Oklahoma City is just underneath so much pressure of water, just like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who choked away a game last night that I didn't watch. I was sound asleep. But to all those who stayed up late on a work night and were disappointed, my heart goes out to you. Hopefully you didn't have too bad of a Tuesday. And guess what? The good thing about the NBA playoffs, they have to play a few more of them. So hope is still out there for the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I'm Brady Trantham, alongside one Alan Kinney. Alan, say something.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hopefully everyone's saying we're doing well, Alan. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. None of the other podcast hosts on these other podcasts that talk about OU football ask me how I'm doing. So remember that when you're on your little
here
message.
For you. We care.
Exactly. Yeah. When you're on your little message boards out there, if those still exist, the modern equivalent to a message board, and someone asks, what are the best OU podcasts out there? Just at least remember that while I rant and ramble on this podcast, at least we ask you how you're doing. Matt, also say something. Matthew Burton.
Hello. How are we?
Well, we are doing fine. I hope Alan is too.
I'm doing great, man.
Hells yeah. That's what I want to hear. I hate when the Mac tells you, like, update. I will update later. I told you that 10 minutes ago. Stop asking me.
Yeah. Update tonight.
We're trying to podcast, Mom. Ugh. I told you to stay out of the basement when when the live sign is on. Ugh. Keyholepod.com, where you can find Alan Kinney's latest column, Blatant Homerism. The one last week was pretty eye-opening. Boy, I mean, I talked about if I was this morning with a listener of ours, talking about if I was the czar of college football, like what would you do to fix it? And really it would just be transfers, like transferring. You get one, just go read Alan's article. And I think if you're not mad enough at the transfer portal, just the concept of just being able to leave willy-nilly after a semester of football, go read Alan's article, keyholepod.com. That's the free one. Patreon.com/through the keyhole, where you can find extra OU stuff from us. Alan's been busy. Had was Alex Kirshner, is that his name?
Yeah, I had Alex Kirshner from Split Zone Duo on.
From the Split Zone Duo podcast. Very good listen. So go check that out. Hopefully our patrons enjoyed that. I enjoyed listening to it. Alan's always great as a solo host. So extra stuff for you with a national college football personnel extraordinaire, whatever you want to call him, with of course the OU subject matter, which we always appreciate. But guys, we've got some very big news, and when I say big, I mean just tall. The guy's very tall. I don't know really what else to say about him because he played for, and let's get this straight, everybody. We have learned something in this offseason. As OU fans, we've learned that Kennesaw is a state. We have learned that what other states are there? No, now there's a McNeese state. Do we have any other state?
Pittsburgh State.
Ooh,
there's a Pittsburgh state.
But there's no more McNeese State. It's just McNeese now.
Yes.
Oh my! Were they annexed into Kennesaw State, like the Greater Kennesaw Union?
Great question. I'm sure it's just a branding issue at the end of the day.
Well, OU gets Jer'Michael Carter. From McNeese, not McNeese State, but from McNeese. The guy is 6'4", 6'3", big, tall possession receiver's got some speed. But really, it seems like an insurance policy in the event that Giovanni Gibson is not ready as quickly as Brent Venables kind of just very in a cavalier way just mentioned, like, oh yeah, by camp he'll be fine or something like that. We'll see, especially with this staff. Say what you want about Bob Stoops. I mean, Lincoln Riley, for example, his infamous injury thing was always like it's a lower leg or an upper body injury, which could be dozens of different things, but he would never specifically tell you what was wrong. Therefore, we could never really ascertain how long a player was going to be out. Bob, his thing was, oh, they're going to be fine. And then the next day there would be a funeral for the player. Like in lieu of flowers, please send money to the program. With Brent, it seems like he just errs on the absolute side of optimism and good feelings, because in his heart, he feels like if you just believe it will happen. So when he says things like this guy will be ready by this date, I mean, I hope so. So I guess that's what Jer'Michael Carter represents, is if Gibson's not ready, and especially Jaden Gibson, who I don't even remember the last time we've mentioned him as a podcast in terms of Jaden Gibson's effectiveness or even availability for the 2025 Oklahoma Sooners. But Jer'Michael Carter being a big-bodied receiver, Allen, definitely a good get. It came down between Baylor and Vanderbilt, and normally my my hardcore, hardline Sooner heart would look at that final three and go, one of these things is not like the other. But if you want to be super, 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 on the bright side, I mean, Vanderbilt and Baylor do have good staffs, coaching staffs. They've got good eyes for talent. So, okay. All right. But at the end of the day, it's just, to me, just an insurance policy, right?
That's what I see it. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's, I believe, going into his third season, redshirt sophomore. Physically, the traits are there, right? As you mentioned. But, I mean, to me, this is a guy who is, at this point, a depth piece. And, yes, you mentioned the injury to Giovanni Gibson kind of, I think, made gain another receiver pretty much an imperative. But, to me, I think that what you're maybe hoping for more than anything is that this is a season for him where he can kind of, establish himself and use it as a springboard to be a contributor in 2026.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, if you're going to take a flyer on a kid from a lower level institution, get them when they're young. If they have the measurables, which Jer'Michael Carter certainly does, get them while they're, they still have a few years to develop, because ideally you do find something in him if you're this coaching staff. And yeah, best case scenario is he makes an instant impact day one. Will that happen? I don't know. Probably not. But if they do believe that there's something there, then okay, we've got him on the roster, a player that we did not previously have until, situations arose that forced us to be in the market for another receiver this late in the calendar year in the offseason. But now we've got something to work with potentially for the future, because you're always going to lose guys. You're always going to lose, especially receivers, year in and year out. So, I mean, that's good. Matt, I assume the heavy topic the last few days for you guys on the old franchise, which let's give a shout out to your co-host real quick, Matt, because I checked the Patreon today, and I'm going to apologize to the patrons. I did not go to sleep Sunday night. I had an awful Monday. I just did not go to sleep. Had an awful day at work. I felt sick, but I wasn't sick enough to not go to work. And I just started this new job, so I can't just be like, yo, I need to like at least earn their trust first. And basically all this to say, Monday, Tuesday, it's been kind of like a catch-up battle because I was so tired. So I have not had a second of time to think about the Monday/Tuesday post. But while I was checking Patreon today, Matt, I see that we got a new patron by the name of Tyler Neal. So let's
a different one. It's a different Tyler Neal. No, I'm joking.
A different Tyler Neal?
It might be my guy T Neal. Shout out to T Neal if you're listening.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. I did miss you guys on Monday yesterday, not being able to call in. My dad called me because I guess like right before my segment would have hit, I guess you mentioned like, We won't be hearing from Brady today. He's a little under the weather.
Right.
And then my dad was listening to the franchise on his way home. And he goes like, "Hey, Bubs, are you okay?"
Sorry, I didn't mean to dox you. I'd normally come up with something creative, like
He's dying.
he's getting a piercing or something like that. Just something, he can't make it. But Monday, I guess I was just phoning it in. I was just like, you know what? He's dealing with a little ailment. He'll be fine though.
No, it was just a minor form of leprosy. It's going to be fine. No, but anyway, like I assume that the heavy topic the last few days for you on the radio has been the Oklahoma City Thunder and their playoff exploits. And Jer'Michael Carter, as big as he is, flew under the radar. If not, like how hard in the paint did you guys have to go in on this early May wide receiver transfer portal haul?
Yeah, not too in the weeds. To be completely honest, not too in the weeds, but. I mean, it is a talking point, obviously. I mean, especially at a position like wide receiver, and especially with the way that the receiver room, unfolded last year, it is a topic of conversation, something that people want to know about. Now, I don't know if I want to, say how much Jer'Michael Carter is going to help this year's Sooners. I mean, I hope that he does. Maybe that would be a very nice surprise. But I feel like in a perfect world, you don't see Jer'Michael Carter play this season. That's just me. And that's hopefully he surprises. Maybe he surprises. He comes out and he's great. He's awesome at 6'4", 190 or whatever he is. With that size, that can obviously be utilized. But in a perfect world, if he's not playing, that means you're healthy. Two, guys like Deion Burks, Satania, Zion Kearney, some guys like that. And then some guys on the outside, like maybe an Elijah Thomas as a true freshman, guys like that are actually hitting. Like it's like, okay. I don't know. You mentioned Giovanni Gibson earlier. I'm kind of with you, Brady, I'm going to believe that he'll be good to go for the season whenever I see it. I'm not going to hold out any sort of hope with that. My pessimistic thing is like, okay, maybe he's ready for Texas, but like how ready can you physically be, right? Of a broken, so
right. Like there's a huge difference between, he'll be there at the start of camp, which means maybe he'll be working out or running.
Yeah, he'll start running. Yeah.
Like actually playing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So like, that's why I said pessimistic. I guess I meant to say like my optimistic is like, okay, yeah, game 4 or 5, he's like actually playing and taking snaps. So I don't know, man. The Jer'Michael Carter stuff, it's fine. It's good for depth. In a perfect world, you don't see him because that means everyone else is healthy and playing well.
Yeah, I mean, like I think the most positive, realistic approach would be if Gibson's ready. Let's say that he's literally ready by like at some point in fall camp. So that's what 3-4 weeks of practice before OU plays Illinois State or whoever the hell they're playing. Right. Game 1. You just have him practice and get his sea legs under him, and you do not waste like him getting picked up and thrown down to the ground like, what's his name? Nick Anderson did against Tennessee on his like first or second play of the game, and he's out for the year. You don't risk that against Illinois State. I mean, really, you just try, if he's ready, you try to get him 100% ready by Michigan or Auburn. You do not let him play Illinois State, Temple, or Kent State. Like, really, that should be it. And if your debut in a season is the Texas game, has there been a player of note?
Jalen Saunders.
Jalen Saunders. And did he do anything that game?
No.
Okay. So Jalen Saunders eventually became something. So somebody of note. So at the time, Jalen Saunders was of note because this was in the pre-transfer portal days, and OU just randomly got a receiver from Fresno State for reasons. I think he blamed asthma or something.
Correct. And the whatever was going on in the San Joaquin Valley from a allergy standpoint. Yes.
Yeah. So let me move to the allergy capital of the world if you can't hear it in my voice. Yeah. But yeah, so he was of note for just those reasons. He wasn't necessarily of note because he was Jalen Saunders, that we would come to find out over the next year and a half or 2 years for him. I just, whenever someone says this player will be ready by the Texas game, I'm always like, I don't like that being their first game. So Michigan or Auburn for Giovanni Gibson, please. And look, I know we've been, at least I have, I won't speak for all you guys. I know I've been very pessimistic when it comes to the injury concern, from the standpoint of Brent just being very brazen with, we won't be as injured next year, as if it's like the football gods. Okay, we're going to punish you this year, OU, but next year it'll be fine. Like, we're just going to turn the injuries down like 60%. I'm not sitting here pretending that anybody that gets hurt is injured for the rest of their lives like last year. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like that. If it happens, then it does. And then we can raise questions later if that happens. But no, like, I assume Gibson will be back. What I'm questioning is just when Brent specifically answers questions about players' availability, I'm just like, I don't know if I believe that based on evidence, but it is what it is. But guys, how much do you guys want to bet that, Jer'Michael Carter making his visit, a week or two ago to Norman, talking with the coaches, how much y'all want to bet that Joe John Finley saw him and thought, did they bring a tight end in for me and I just didn't know about it? Are they giving me another chance? Well, seriously, what are we paying Joe John for? And when I say we, I went to school at OU. What are we paying him for?
Are you ready for the new era of sports in Oklahoma? Want to be ready for some real Southern football? Kaizen Performance in Norman, Oklahoma is your spot for physical and mental growth. By empowering a lifestyle of constant, continuous improvement, Kaizen Performance's gym experience lends itself from the experienced training fanatics to those who want to make a positive change in their lives and everyone in between. Come see their new location at 158 Armstrong Court in Norman, Oklahoma. With experienced trainers who understand that every client has individual desires and needs, in-person and online customized training programs and nutrition plans, Kaizen Performance has everything to offer for you to meet your goals. Again, their new location is 158 Armstrong Court, Norman, Oklahoma, 73071. Seriously, Brady works out there, and so does Peyton when he comes to home games. Come work out with us and get ready for the week-to-week grind of real Southern football. Kaizen Performance, Norman's own local gym where your goals are a workout away.
Yeah, it's a great question, right? But yeah, it's kind of one of these things too, though. Like, tight end is a tough one to find in the transfer portal too, which would suggest, you really need to be like beating the bushes to get to recruit the position pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess there have been numbers, but not really contributors.
Well, look, OU having the desire to grab a tight end of note out of the portal this offseason was destroyed by the fact that they retained Joe John, because West of Evers talked about this last week, at least Grant was, in regards to, like you were just kind of alluding to, Alan, like there's a lot of players, a lot of tight ends that hit the portal. How many of them are actually good? You can count on one hand how many of them were probably good. OU did have, like on paper, a chance to upgrade their room from the tight end perspective, at least twice this season. I can never remember the kid's name. Is it Luke Haas?
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. He went to Ole Miss from Arkansas.
Yeah, and he hit the portal immediately after the season. So this would have been a case where, right, you can transfer in conference. It's just the spring portal. Okay, so he could have transferred to OU and been eligible because he ended up transferring to Ole Miss.
Correct.
Okay, so this kid's out of Bixby. He could have transferred to OU. Why? He didn't, because Joe John Finley and I guess Lincoln Riley screwed up that relationship. But I'm going to guarantee you, without any evidence whatsoever, that if OU had a tight end coach of any type that showed any type of competence in coaching or developing players or getting them to the next level, Luke Haas would have at least taken another visit, or at least given OU another look. And then that's when you back up the Brinks truck and say, come on home, big boy. Couldn't do that because they retained Joe John Finley because, you know what, he took one on the chin for us and he's a member of the OU family, God damn it. So we're going to keep him because we're stubborn and we have no idea what to do on offense unless Ben Arbuckle saves us. And then the kid injuries from Cal hits the portal right after Jade Knott does. And you're like, okay, well, he's very talented. He's one of the other two tight ends you count on one hand that are actually good. And maybe since OU got Jade Knott, maybe that could help us in randomly grabbing this guy out of the portal that we never would have thought would have been in the cards for the last few weeks. And no, he immediately goes to Texas because Texas identifies that he's very good. They pay the bat, they drop the bag, and they also keep OU from getting a potentially good player. It's all because of stubbornness. All because, no, we got to do right by Joe John. Why? I don't know why. I thought this was big boy football, but it's what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, like, again, too, if it's a resources thing, part of the reason why, I mean, Texas obviously has a lot of money, but also they're not taking 20-ish, 20, 21, 22 transfers in that they have to figure out a way to, accommodate. I mean, when you have a smaller demand for incoming players like that, you don't have to. You have more powder dry. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So
that's it's all kind of it's a feedback loop. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, propaganda writers for the that Texas is trying to pay like what $45 million for their roster.
Yeah, I think Kirk Bowl said it was something like 35 to 40 million. I mean, that's been refuted by some of the other writers, but I mean, there's no doubt that it's an expensive team when you look at some of the guys. I mean, if you look at some of the guys that they picked up, I mean, I think they picked up 5 defensive linemen in the transfer portal this year, which, I mean, those guys are in heavy demand, so you're going to be paying pretty penny for them.
What's crazy to me is like Ohio State's was rumored to be like 20 million last year. Obviously worked for him, won a national title. Is that like, it feels like an insane jump after 1 year to like double the highest NIL of last year. I don't know if it's, I don't know. Maybe it's not as crazy as I'm making it out to be.
I think the weirdest thing with the Ohio State thing last year is that Will Howard got 500 of those dollars to come to Ohio State. He's like, wow, that's a lot of money.
So
just
I don't know.
Football?
Obviously, like you said, it's been refuted and everything like that. I have a hard time believing 40 million is the price for roster after just last year. The reported.
Well, how much is Arch getting?
I say reported, but yeah, right. Might be 10 of that. Yeah.
Yeah. We actually had, I mean, this is somewhat related to what you were talking about, Alan, and it's definitely related to your previous article on keyholepod.com. And this was just a comment from our previous episode on Spotify, which again, like we keep getting a bunch of good comments on our Spotify page. So if you do not know, I'll remind you all, if you listen on Spotify, you can leave comments on each episode directly on the page, and Peyton and I will get the notification, and we'll read your questions on air if they apply to what we're talking about. But we do greatly appreciate. We'll probably respond in the page as through the keyhole to you, but we do greatly appreciate that. But R.D. Powers Jr. Allen wrote, "It's hard to get on Brent Venables about having to get to having to get portal guys when you admit that Riley didn't leave him much in the transition from 21 to 22." So he doesn't have double-digit juniors and seniors that can play. Granted, there also have been some whiffs. And I think, there was elements of truth to the first part of his comment. That last bit, it's like some whiffs. Well, there've been a lot. There've been a lot of whiffs.
Well, yeah. I mean, my guess is probably not more than I mean, like, I get what he's saying, and that's part of the reason why I've tried to draw attention to this issue because like I do agree it's hard to get on to Venables about these large numbers when you consider, I mean, there's a backfilling effect that you have to take into account every year, right? But I guess more than anything, then that just goes to show like now OU needs to be off that. I mean, they need to be, and I, you didn't really see that this year. I mean, it's a fairly small high school class. Now, you hope that this would be the last year, but if that's the case, I mean, this is kind of a make or break year. So, what does that mean for us going forward? If, there's going to, for example, if Venables doesn't make it past this season, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm just trying. I agree, and that's why I feel like I was mentioning. I think I said it when I was talking with Alex. Like a lot of times, I feel like I've been an apologist for Brent Venables because I see a lot of stuff at play here that's beyond his control. At the same time, though, like that's also the job. You know what I mean? Like the job is, hey, you took, you inherited this, messy situation. Time to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, you've definitely defended Brent Venables. I think more so than anybody on this podcast. I wouldn't put you into the category of, I mean, what was his name? Chris Crocker, the leave Brittany alone dude. I wouldn't sit here.
Work.
I wouldn't sit here and tell you that you're getting on Keyhole saying you leave Brent Venables alone. It was Lincoln Riley's fault. He took Mario Williams. Mario was the key to everything. He would have bridged the program. No. I mean, yeah, there are realities. I think the overall point is that when he was hired, Brent said some things about the transfer portal and NIL that we all immediately identified as, I don't know if that's going to play right. That's a great old school mentality to have. And in a perfect world, yes. We want players that want to eat shit and breathe Oklahoma football just like we do as fans. That's not how the world works. Rest assured, when players do come to OU and they do, graduate here from here or play here for a long time, like Dylan Gabriel is probably always going to have very nice things to say about his time at OU and always kind of think of himself in a way as an Oklahoma Sooner. So, I mean, it still works even in the transfer portal NIL era, but we all identified that in the moment. And then Brent immediately pivoted into more of a pragmatic approach in some respects. But I think even back then, we would have thought going into 2025 that we would not have been relying so heavily upon the transfer portal for multiple positions across both sides of the football. Okay, we need a cornerback. Well, that's one thing. Or we need a quarterback. That's another thing. You can get that out of the portal with the boatload of money that OU has in their war chest. But if you're having to replace and also get depth pieces for multiple positions, that's when it's like, I thought we would be past this by now, but clearly we aren't.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to put it, right? Like, in terms of, maybe planning from the beginning when it came to how many guys are you going to be taking in the portal or who you're taking or how you're filling out positions, looking for, maybe longer term solutions as opposed to guys who really only had maybe a year to contribute. Those are the kinds of things that you do wonder about if the timing was right. But, again, to kind of go back to a message I want to also make very, very clear. Brent Venables got this job at a time when the world completely changed in college football too. And so like things that
that's what you and Alex talked about on your podcast on Patreon.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, some of the stuff that I think that Brent said, when he was introduced, I think in the context of the world in that point in late 2021, early 2022, and now we've seen things have played out a lot differently in the greater landscape.
Yeah. It was interesting, like on that podcast you had mentioned, and we talked about this like in our group chat before, of just the fine line in terms of how when things started. So Steve Sarkisian gets the job at Texas at the tail end of, Alabama had just won that national championship during the COVID year. And then,
Georgia won 2021, right? Or no, pardon me. It was after 2020. Yeah. So it would have been Alabama. Yes.
Yeah. So Sark gets the job at Texas, but then coaches in the national title game, right?
I think that is what. Yeah, I believe that is what how that went down. Yeah,
because again, OU is the only school with a team playing in a national title game whose very important coordinators, gets a head coaching gig, and they're like, I'm out the door. Bye. Don't worry. Nothing bad will happen. It's only us. Only us. But he takes that job before NIL becomes a thing, before the transfer portal becomes a thing. And Texas, while they were a program certainly I would describe them under Tom Herman as a program in stagnation. Maybe like a lesser version of Bo Pelini, Nebraska. Because at least those Nebraska teams were playing for conference championships and vying for them, even when they transitioned into the Big Ten. Texas did once under Tom Herman. But while they were a program in stagnation and overall just disappointing for the previous decade, they always recruited really well. So whatever head coach they were going to get was going to have like weapons at his disposal. And one of the points you made up in your post, Alan, was of the players Texas has put into the NFL the last few years, the vast majority of them have been Herman guys, and not many like truly recruited by or developed by Sarkisian guys. And maybe that will change with one more year. Just like, we're sounding the alarms about OU putting out NFL guys because they only put 2 in the draft. Well, next year, even if OU's not particularly good, they're probably going to put 3, 4, 5 guys in the NFL draft just because they're going to have more draft eligible players this coming season. So Texas better set up for success, and they hired their coach with new leadership at the exact right time, whereas OU went through that first year in the NIL era, or the first 2 years in the NIL era, and then the transfer portal. And when Lincoln Riley leaves, everyone's first foray into life in the era of the transfer portal is Caleb Williams saying bye-bye.
Right. I mean, like Alex pointed out, the transfer portal's been there since like 2018, I think is what he said. The point being, though, that in 2021, that season, all of a sudden the rules about transfer eligibility changed. And now we've even seen, and so you'd be eligible immediately right away. And at first, it was the one-time thing, I guess. Now it's pretty much however many times you want to transfer to. So like, all of that was different. I mean, it was just Riley, he definitely, in terms of his own kind of security, he planned his exit quite well, actually.
Yeah.
I actually I got curious when Alan and Peyton were talking about this last week. We were talking about just the talent left over on the rosters for both Sark and Brent. So I got curious whenever they brought that up. I was like, okay, let me Google and see like what, the actual numbers are. And funny enough, like technically both Brent and Sark have only had 3 draft classes, because after Sark's first year, they did not have one single pick. The University of Texas did not have one NFL draft pick. So technically, they've each had 3 draft classes, and Texas over that time, past 3 years, have had 28 draft picks. 28 compared to OU's 10 draft picks in the last 3 years. Now, OU, only 8 of those guys were on the roster when Brent joined up. The only 2 that weren't were Walter Rouse and Jonah Laulu. And then the most was after
Tyler Guyton.
Tyler Guyton, yeah.
I missed
Tyler
that
Guyton
too.
as well. Tyler Guyton as well. But all those, like 5 of those guys went after that first year. So you're talking about just 5 the last 2 seasons, 5 total the last 2 seasons. And in that first season too, I mean, 2 of those are offensive linemen, Wanye Morris, Anton Harrison, right? I mean, Bill Bedenpoke kind of doing some work. And then the second one, Walter Rouse and Tyler Guyton, like 2 tackles in a row getting drafted. Texas, 28 draft picks, 22 of them were on the roster when Sark took over. 22. And some of the notable names that were on there, Bijan Robinson, DeMarvion Overshone, Xavier Worthy, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, Jonathan Brooks, Jade Barron, who was the Jim Thorpe Award winner. Like, there are some damn good names still left over from Tom Herman whenever Sark took over.
Right. And I mean,
It was
you got
never
to give him
recruiting
credit for
with him.
developing, but it was never a recruiting issue, like you're saying, Brady. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's never a thing for Texas. It's not hard for them to recruit. OU has a much smaller margin for error in that respect, which is why this program has prided itself on not sucking, and that's what makes this kind of current situation that we find ourselves in a little interesting, because OU doesn't have much experience navigating the waters of we're okay with whatever the hell this is, and I guess. One big difference. I mean, say what you want about Sarkisian. I mean, I know that the national types love him. I understand the reasons why. I don't think he's as elite as he's been painted. We have seen elite coaches. I don't think Sark's one of those guys. He's been very, very fortunate. A lot of weird circumstances have kind of coalesced into allowing him a very easy path into the success he's enjoyed. But you know what? Credit to him for winning those games, because Brent probably would have choked in the second half or not adjusted. Say what you want. At least Sark showed that he understands the other side of the ball he's not most familiar with in terms of the coaching staff that he assembled on the defensive side of the ball, because Brent was severely lacking as he entered his first head coaching gig at OU in terms of understanding how to build an offensive staff. He's still learning on the job to do that. Maybe Brent or maybe Ben Arbuckle will be his salvation. But that will kind of segue us into the topic that you brought up, Alan. And it's just this, I guess the idea, or what we were seeing, it's not really an idea. It's just what we're seeing out of OU over the last few years of just the absolute support Brent Venables has received from, it seems like, all the influential players, whether it be Joe Castiglione, the president, Joe Harris, the donors. And it's not like the donors or the regents get interviewed, but when OU is able to sign like big money players out of the portal that we desperately want, and I guess maintain the roster and retain players like our Mason Thomas, retain players like David Stone that OU wants. I mean, that tells you that there is still sizable support from the influential players that help run the program. For a coach that's what, 22-17 or 23-17 in 3 seasons, 2, 6, and 7 years, no bowl wins, hasn't played for a conference championship. That's a lot of confidence for a guy that holds those accolades going into his 4th year at OU.
Yeah, it's funny. We think about Dabo Swinney, for example, as this really accomplished head coach, in college football. But I remember it really was like, about 15 years or so ago, right? Clemson goes to play in I think it was the Orange Bowl. I can't remember which bowl, but they're playing West Virginia and
It was the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, they get demolished. They gave up 70 points, right? So the year's 2011 going to 2012 season. And at that point, Clemson was okay, but it was kind of one of these things where, Dabo was on a hot seat going into the next season. And he had upgraded at offense coordinator, I guess, with the hire of Chad Morris. He had Kevin Steele as his defensive coordinator back then, canned him, and took advantage of an opening to get Brent Venables, ironically, from OU, right? So that's going to 2012. And they had, a remarkable run after that. For the next 10 years or so, I had it somewhere here. They went like a combined 121-17, 2 national titles. They also made the 2 national championship games. It was very miraculous in terms of where they went. And it was around the time when there was a lot of concern about Dabo Swinney losing his job, right? I don't see that kind of run coming, but my point being, I think that going into, kind of a make or break season for Venables, OU has really done everything that really could be asked for him to help to support him to get, to give this his best shot. You see sometimes where coaches are kind of, their job status is up in the air. In the past, before really it was, before there was, essentially free agency in college football, a lot of that would come down then to like, what are the kind of support are they giving him on the coaching staff? Like I mentioned, Dabo hiring Venables. But I mean, OU went out, they spent money on a coveted offensive coordinator, big time acquisition in the quarterback, kept all their guys. I mean, it's a level of support. And I don't think that it's just about Venables himself, right? I mean, to me, this is just as much about like showing also like you're going to support your head coach and give him the best chance to succeed, the best chance to thrive. It's important not only if Venables succeeds or does not, but also to show that to the coaching market in my mind that you're going to get what you need, or we're going to give you the best shot that we can to help you thrive. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why I still think that OU is seen as, in my opinion, seen as a good job on the college football coaching market.
Matt, I mean, I know where I'm going to go with this, but I wanted to let you chime in first before I derail this conversation into lunacy. But do you have anything to add to Alan or to argue with him?
No, I just say I feel this from the fans a lot, obviously, and I just think it boils down to so many people want Brent to be the guy. Like they want Brent Venables to work out, and I feel like that seems like it seeped its way into the like administration of. They want Brent to succeed too. I think that everyone just likes Brent, right? I mean, I think he's just a good dude going through a lot, has been through a lot in his life, is going through a lot right now as well with his wife. So, I mean, like all that stuff, I think, matters a little bit. And I don't know, I think it's not only that, but also he was the direct replacement from the guy that left you at the altar, right? That from Lincoln Riley. That's you want to show them, right, what OU's about. You want to show them that they got it right. They're getting their defense back together when it was, neglected for the better part of a decade, and it just hasn't gone well. I think there's maybe a little bit of stubbornness, like you're saying, of just we want so badly for him to be the guy because he was the one that showed up after we got left at the altar. Maybe that's crazy too. I don't know.
No, you hit on something that's very true, Matt. The administration wanting him to work, because that's exactly the answer. Because if Brent doesn't work, then I don't know if Fedora guy is going to have another chance to go hire somebody. And that could be very well like of his own volition, because he's been the athletic director for a long, long time, and he is nearing retirement age. So it would not, if Joe Castiglione retired tomorrow, it would be shocking because like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But then when you realize how long he's been here and how old he is, like, oh, okay, well, it's not that shocking that someone that old and that long in the professional tooth is calling it a day. If it doesn't work for Brent, I mean, how many times did Texas change its? Have they had 2 or 3 athletic directors since Mac Brown? Like the end of the Mac Brown era, Alan? Have they had 3? There's Del Conte. There was.
They had the Lost Dawes back around the early 2010s. Then he was gone because I think that he didn't want to be the one to have to hire the next head coach. Yeah. So they brought in Steve Patterson, I believe, from Arizona State, and he lasted like a year. Then they had an interim, and then they went to Del Conte. So okay. So they've had 3, and it's been tumultuous. I mean, up until now.
Yeah, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're constantly hiring people and but there is something to be said about, you've got to at some point shed the skin of the previous era completely. And ideally you do it in a way where it's a bridge, where it's a seamless transition into the next president or the next athletic director or the next head coach. Alabama is currently trying to do that, going from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer, a coach that we all think is fantastic. But boy, those are gigantic shoes to fill. I don't even know if that's possible to do, even with a coach of the caliber of Kalen DeBoer. So it's not even that fair to judge him. But it's not always how it works. And Matt, like you even mentioned it, the defense got neglected for 10 years. Why did it get neglected? Because Bob didn't feel any pressure to fire his brother. Why didn't he feel any pressure? Because Joe Castiglione didn't give him any pressure. And if he did, it wasn't enough. And so in an effort to do two things after Lincoln Riley left, recover the fan base, like recover them outright by hiring somebody that everybody could viscerally get behind very quickly, and also to correct a problem that you created by not putting pressure under Bob Stoops to fire his brother when it was very, very well, we were all very well aware that he couldn't fucking coach defense anymore. And it wasn't because of a lack of talent. Go read my Monday post from a few weeks ago. He tried to do those two things by hiring Brent Venables, because you don't have to like send out a press release describing why the fan base should be excited about Brent Venables as your next head coach. Everybody loved him. Everybody thought it was a great hire. We all still have hope for Brent Venables. And even I predicted us to go 9-3. So while I don't think Brent is the head coach of the future, I still recognize that they're going to be good. They're still talented enough to win a lot of games, even in the SEC. I just don't think long-term it's going to work. But Joe Castiglione hired the wrong guy, because he would have had to have explained to the fan base why Dan Lanning is the right call here. But in order for OU to get to a point where they truly shed their skin of the early 2000s heyday, which I am embarrassed to even call it a heyday, because it's nowhere near the heyday of this program's history. It's a distant third heyday to the 70s of Switzer and the 47 game win streak under Wilkinson. It is a distant third. They won one national title and lost three others. One of them they got absolutely embarrassed in that span. But until the only way for them to shed that skin is they need to get new leadership. That does not necessarily mean that new leadership equals, great success. Brady gets his wish, but it's very apparent that the current leadership is so tied to Brent Venables because he represents what they feel like is OU football. They created it, not Benny Owen, not Bud Wilkinson, not Barry Switzer. They did by hiring Bob Stoops, and he wins a national title in his second year, and he coached for a long time. And so they will keep going back to that well, which is why I always joke that if Brent gets fired, it's not going to fix anything, because Joe might just go out and hire Shane Beamer. And friend of the pod, Barry Trammell, even wrote that he thinks that the first person Joe would call in the event Brent gets fired is Josh Heupel. I like Josh, and he's been very good at Tennessee. Can we please stop? Please stop with the 2000s Bob Stoops era OU football. Please, we are better than that. So all that to say, Alan, that's why he has all that support. But again, that is my opinion. I'm the lunatic here. Alan, you have the more nuanced, logical reasoning for this.
Well, they're not. I don't think that they're that far apart. In all honesty, I mean, I think my main point is more like, okay, you look on the market, like if OU's in the market for a new coach at the end of this season, is it an attractive job? Like who's lining up to take that job? I mean, I don't know if Josh Heupel would be the first person they would call. I don't know if Barry Trammell has a direct hotline to George Castiglione's, thinking or anything on that. But I guess it's more just something to think about. And no, I don't. Well, I mean, I would not want Josh Heupel to be the next head coach at OU. I would say that, but that's neither here nor there.
It's less about the specificity. I can never say that word with my hick ass accent. There you go. I can never say it with this accent. It's less about who Barry Trammell thinks the next head coach, or at least the first guy Joe would call. It's, to me, what I read most from that is just another example of this program has no idea what it is outside of better than most era.
I got you. And I follow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So look, at that point you want something new. It would be time for something new.
Exactly. And look, that doesn't mean that I feel like you have to go back to it. It's not like I want us to hire an 80-year-old man who coached during the Switzer era or something like that. Like, no, we did this thing. It had success and it had its time. That time has passed. It is more than past. It passed in the 2010s. But we got really lucky that Baker Mayfield was destined to be GOAT level quarterback and rejuvenated the program, because if Baker doesn't become a thing, like if he was just destined to be a Jag quarterback at OU, like in college, 2015 would not have gone well. Maybe Kyler Murray doesn't even transfer to OU. He was going to transfer from A&M, but if OU wasn't doing anything worth a damn in 2015 offensively, I don't think Kyler is coming to OU. So there's no Baker, there's no Kyler, there's no Jalen Hurts. Lincoln Riley's probably just a Jag offensive coordinator. Like we got truly saved by one player. But because of that, we're still in the same praying that Brent Venables works. And look, I think this is all a moot point anyway, not to disrespect your topic suggestion, Alan, because I truly do not think OU is going to be in a situation where they feel like they have to fire Brent this year, because I think they're going to go at least 8-4. And
I mean, yeah,
and I'm not even, look, I am the furthest away from sunshine pumping, crimson colored glasses OU fan. I look at that schedule. I look at some of the shit that our opponents are going through. And I look at some of the, like Alabama's a good example. Like their schedule is difficult leading up to OU. And if they have 2 or 3 losses, I don't know how motivated they're going to be. Even though OU beat the crap out of them last year, I don't know how motivated they're going to be if they have 2 or 3 losses. That's a big if, because Alabama is also very talented. But if they have a Jag at quarterback, boy, they're going to have 3 losses going into that game against OU. Tennessee traded Nico for UCLA's bad quarterback. So you should feel pretty good about that game if John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle are anywhere near as good as we think that they're going to be. So I don't think he's going to be in a situation to feel like they're going to have to fire Brent.
I mean, maybe not. I think I'm kind of just thinking more about like the broader perception of the program in general. I mean, again, Brent's getting a lot of support, a lot of resources, all that. And, you see in the past where a lot of programs just leave that dude out to dry. Now, to your point, maybe if there's a different, different athletic director calling the shots, it's different. It is different. I don't know. But, this is it's a good thing that OU is giving Venables a shot, like that OU is giving him this, because you need to sell that kind of stuff on the job market. It's the same reason why I think Texas had to really show Steve Sarkisian before they hired him, for example, like, hey, we've got one voice, one direction here. I've done a good, they've done what they could to get their boosters in line, all that kind of stuff. These are the kinds of questions that, coaches are going to have about when they're evaluating a new opportunity. And I think what you're going to show is what I'm saying is you get a fair shot at OU with the resources that you need to compete.
I 100% agree with you in terms of what coaches and what just like prospective employees are looking for in a new job opportunity. I've always had trouble with that justification of keeping a coach, because like the implication being like when everybody knows that this is just not going to work, but they keep that coach for that one extra year because, well, we want to paint a picture of this is a place where you get every chance possible, because the next coach that we would want, maybe he looks at this situation if we had let this guy go a year early and say, I would love to coach for you, but you guys cut the dude out a year early, and that makes me feel worried or concerned. Coaches aren't dumb. When it's not working, they know it's not working. And I know that they would still want to keep their job, and people are like, we're all humans, and so we're all very defensive even when we make mistakes. But this is not getting a job with a company. This is not getting a job with like Google or something like that. It's competition. So if the coach is not winning games and you fire them and then you're interviewing someone else and they bring up concern, then you could say, I would feel like you would just need to say, if you're the athletic director, look, this is OU. If you win games, you're going to have more support than the governor of this state. If you start losing games, yeah, that's when we're going to have questions, and that's the standard here. And if that scares you, then go coach at McNeese. That was previously a state, but lost its statehood.
Well, this gets back to the state of the roster, doesn't it? I mean, if I'm a coach and I'm saying you're blaming Brent Venables for going in and inheriting a roster that was in terrible shape at a time when the landscape of college football is changing. I mean, in ways that people never really conceived of. And on top of that, it's his first season in the SEC. He gets the schedule from hell. Like, I think that a coach would wonder, like, will I really get what I need here? Like, are the expectations reasonable? Are the resources going to be there for me? Or if I am trying to, do people understand what it takes to build a winning program in this environment? Like, because I'm thinking, I mean, I want OU to hire a good coach next. If Venables gets, if he gets shown the door this year, if it's next year or whatever. I mean, my hope is that he doesn't get shown the door and that, he goes forward. But like, at that point, OU is in I mean, this is tough real estate. This is a tough neighborhood to be in, the SEC now, right? And OU, like, let's be honest, it doesn't have necessarily. It's not LSU where you can count on 8 to 10 blue chip players every year out of your state coming directly to you, right? So, like, getting the coach right is important, and showing like you're going to get a fair shake again, that's important. You don't want to be Auburn where you're cycling through guys and I mean, the expectations are out of whack and you've got to pay X amount in buyout money plus try to pony up more money for the next guy. I mean, I'm thinking about like prudent management for the long term of the athletic department.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I will always kind of push back on, Brent inherited a bad roster. He also had the chance to bring over a few Clemson players that would have helped a lot, and he chose not to.
Yeah, I agree. But like, did he choose? But like, that's also something that, again, the athletic department signed off on. I mean, if that can't, that's not just a Brent decision. If that makes sense.
Yeah, this is an athletic department of good feelings. They want, like, Joe has always wanted everybody to like him. And
right.
except for Oklahoma State, that's where he's truly been like the cutthroat athletic director at OU that I wish we'd have. Of like, no, you guys had 100 years to give a shit about this sport enough to cheat back in the day to build yourself up to be at a point where you're as good as we are, and you chose to invest in whatever they invested in, wrestling, all the other national championships that they've won, because they like to peddle we've won more national championships as a school than you have. And then I always say, how many of those sports do you tailgate for? And if you tailgate for all of them, then guess what? You won this argument. I'll take the L on that one, but I'm going to assume that you don't really tailgate for any of them. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I guess I'll ask you guys a quick scenario question, because this would be really hard to identify, but I'm going to try my best. Like, I think 2023 has some good examples. So in our losses, like, we had OSU in a 3rd and long. They throw the jump ball. Makari Vickers gets flagged for what looked like offensive pass interference, but they flagged him for defensive pass interference. And Brent goes out there and argues the call and walks up to the ref, and the ref because I guess like 5 minutes before, I think Mike Gundy lost his mind and ran like clear to midfield from the sideline. And I guess the refs probably told him and Brent Venables, like, no more of that. And Brent walking up to the ref, he didn't touch him. He didn't really yell anything, didn't look demonstrative. The ref turns around and immediately throws his flag. And that was a situation where the head coach directly like F something up. The week before in Lawrence, when we lost to Kansas, was it Bill Beanbo got the sideline penalty for hitting or touching or saying something to a player or running into the ref or something. Yeah, that's Bill Beanbo's personal fault, but Brent Venables is in charge, and the staff has had one too many sideline warnings and they're head coached by a guy who got asked in one of his initial press conferences when he was the head coach at OU, you're going to have a get back coach. Ha 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 ha. So all that to say that Brent is somewhat responsible or directly responsible for OU losing some games in terms of himself or his staff getting penalized in tight games that OU ended up losing. So let's say in 2025, Ben Arbuckle is everything we want. This guy is like clear cut he's the next Lincoln Riley in terms of this is the offensive coordinator of the future. In 2-3 years, he's going to be the next big head coach at some big program. He could be a head coach right now if he wanted to take like a UTSA job or go that New Mexico State route and build himself up that way, or he could stay at OU and wait for that next big gig. But let's say that Brent doesn't grow as a head coach. The timeouts are still like the time management is still like we're getting on the no cap recap every week and tearing our hair out as a result of Brent Venables' decision making. But OU goes 8-4, 9-3, or even 10-2. If that continues to happen with Brent, but Ben Arbuckle is that awesome, would we be on here, Alan, Matt? Would we be on here saying like, why not just make Ben the head coach? Because clearly Brent is in over his head. I think that would be too emotional and rash because I've already criticized Joe Castiglione for essentially hiring Brent out of emotion. Like, Lincoln Riley hurt our feelings. I'm going to show him. We're going to show him, aren't we, OU? We're going to hire someone that we can all passionately love, and Brent Venables. That was emotion. So if this scenario happens, I feel like it would be emotional of me to sit here and pontificate for Ben Arbuckle being the head coach. But if he truly is the salvation for Brent Venables, he should just be the salvation for the program. But maybe that's going too far.
Yeah, I don't know where to really stand. I haven't really thought about this like that.
Too young.
This
Too
outcome.
young.
I think so. I think I would rather just like you said, like no real holdovers, like just kind of gut everything if it goes bad. But maybe, I mean, I'm sure there would be a portion of the fan base that if the offense looks awesome, but you know, the defense takes more steps back than we think, and then you know it's back to like a 2018 situation where the offense is awesome, but you have to beat everyone 55-45. Then you know it would be I'm sure there'd be some people in the fan base that would be like, yeah, just give Ben Arbuckle the keys. But I mean, I think if it goes sour again, if it goes south, I think Ben Arbuckle could be a really good coach. Seems like a great dude. Seems like, you know, he has good offenses. Already has, you know, a pretty good track record there as far as putting offenses together. But I would just much rather probably see a full kind of overhaul.
Yeah. I mean, what you just said, Alan, before I get to you, what you just said, Matt, like that would be the easiest example to paint. Like the offense is great and the defense falls off the face of the earth. It's like, well, Brent's in charge of the defense, so he needs to go.
Right.
I don't think that would realistically happen. Like
I don't either.
Yeah, like Brent is too good of a defensive coach for us to be truly awful on defense. We'll give up big plays. The secondary is still a big question mark going into next year, but with the talent they've got coming back, even losing Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman, I expect them to still be a very good defense. The question is whether or not they can be elite. So that's why I thought a realistic scenario is, let's say OU goes 9-3, but 2 of those 3 losses we can easily pinpoint to Brent and his decision making. But the offense was fine, you know. So I mean, Alan, is there any truth to that potential scenario? Would it be too emotional? Would it be the right call? Or I mean, how does that kind of sit in your head?
I mean, not really, because you know,
not really what.
Not really that I would see that being hiring Ben Arbuckle as being like a realistic option and that kind of thing, or anything that's in the cards. And I say that because, I mean, you know, you can say, oh, Lincoln Riley was young, blah blah blah. Well, he was also, you know, he had been there for 2 years with Bob Stoops. He had a longer kind of track record pedigree with guys like Mike Leach. Arbuckle is still too much of an unknown, I think, in terms of what, you know, what would he be doing with recruiting, for example? How does he work with, you know, and especially now, how does he work with a guy like Jim Nagy? Like, would that mesh? I mean, my guess is that Jim Nagy has a pretty, if OU's hiring another coach in 6-7 months. My guess is that Jim Nagy actually has a pretty big say in it, or not say. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has some thoughts that are given a lot of weight by the school. I just don't see a scenario where Arbuckle is a legitimate option.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I've been jokingly saying it to some friends. Like, I hope Ben Arbuckle is great, but not too great. Because if he's great, then I don't know how long we'll be able to keep him. And then Brent's just going to have to go hire a new offensive coordinator. And I don't have the utmost confidence that he can go out there and find one. So good, but not great. Great, but not elite. I don't know what the standard would be, but I think OU can hold on to him realistically for 2 years, even if he is elite this year. He's too young.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
can't
maybe
envision a
he's got-
scenario where he's going to be, getting I mean, it could be if he does well this year, it'll be the kind of thing where it's like, if you did get 2 years of this, imagine what you could really do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, what are some potential power forward jobs that could be open after? Is Mel Tucker still at Michigan State?
No, 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 no.
No,
He is not.
He's the one that got caught.
Oh, yeah.
On the phone thing with
Oh, yeah.
the leading advocate for victims of sexual abuse by athletes.
I totally forgot about
It's
that.
rough. Rough. No, they hired the guy from Oregon State
Yeah, they did a
few
good
years
job with
ago.
that.
Okay.
Anderson, is that his name? Anderson
Jonathan Smith.
Smith. I went from one generic last name to another.
Yeah.
That's what I
Well, what
I mean,
job could-
Arkansas would be is potential.
Arkansas. I mean, Ole Miss is always potential just because Lane Kiffin could just up and leave.
I know this is like an
Florida-
easy parallel. What if Joe McGuire sucks this year at Tech?
Yeah, I mean, they put a ton of money in there, man.
So that's what I mean. Like if he doesn't produce, do they, not to make the very easy like West Texas connection there, but just throwing it out.
No, because my next question was going to be what big school in Texas potentially could have a new coach? I mean, not A&M, not Texas. Texas Tech's a good
Well, like
call.
would he go to like a Texas State or like a UTSA?
Well, that's what we don't know about him in terms of his professional aspirations. Like if he's absolutely cutthroat and determined to be a head coach, he will get a head coaching gig after this coming season that he could potentially accept. But it would be like Texas State or UTSA or Kentucky State, something like that, where you could just go learn how to be a head coach with very low expectations and not a lot of eyeballs so that you can make all the mistakes that Brent Venables is making, but learn from them in order to then kind of flourish as a head coach at a much bigger program. I mean, it's usually the philosophy behind that, but usually coordinators like that are in Ben Arbuckle's shoes, they already understand what they want and they appreciate where they are and they kind of ride that pony until they get to their preferred destination. I mean, let's see, Texas Tech's got Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and then they play Oregon State in Lubbock, at Utah. I mean, Utah, is what's his name going to retire soon?
Yeah, Kyle Whittingham. Yeah, I think he's probably on his I would
but I
guess
think-
this is his last year.
Yeah.
Wasn't their D coordinator the Scally
Yeah.
guy? Isn't he a head coach in waiting? I think.
Yes.
Or did he
Okay.
take another job? Am I?
No, he's the head
Okay.
coach in Wayne there.
Oh, so they've got at Utah, bye week, at Houston. See if Willie Fritz can get Houston to be respectable. Kansas, at Arizona State, Oklahoma State, at Kansas State, BYU, UCF, at West Virginia. That, at least right now, like in terms of how good these teams were last year, that looks really hard for Texas Tech. So that could happen. But
They dumped a ton of money though into that roster too, though.
how good is Texas Tech softball doing, Matt? Have you had to keep track of that?
They won the Big 12.
They did win the Big 12. So
Yeah,
Kennedy
Nigel
is,
Kennedy is that good. Like, I mean, yeah,
she's
she
her.
single-handedly carried Stanford to the Women's College World Series for a reason. Like, she's great.
Damn, if OU only had, I guess, some cooler STEM undergrads, I don't think Patty would have a pitching problem right now outside of one person.
I think Baylor would be the one to watch more in the Power Four Texas, region there. I mean, Aranda was on thin ice last year and kind of saved himself, but now the expectations there are pretty high. And I mean, I think they've got Auburn on the schedule this year, at SMU, Arizona State, at OSU. I mean, they've got the typical Big 12 schedule. I mean, where every game's going to be like a 3-point spread. I mean,
yeah.
But having Auburn and at SMU for 2 of their 3 non-con games, I mean, that's rough.
Damn, they have 1 home game in October.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it was Solid Verbal or if it was Joel Klatt's podcast, but I listened to one national podcast where they are like, my early season predictions for each Power 4 conference, and one of them picked Baylor to win. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know Baylor had that expectation to some people.
Yeah.
Because I was under the same impression too.
Yeah. Robertson.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, I like Dillingham at Arizona State. I have no idea how good they're going to be. I mean, they still have their quarterback. They still have like their defense, but Scadaboo's gone, which is a tragedy for college football.
And they got the
OSU
running back from Army to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
I would love the joke of like going from West Point to Tempe, Arizona has to be like the biggest college culture shock ever.
And he's never going to leave. I don't want to come home. I don't want to come home, Mom. I love you. Just know that I'm happy out in the desert, finding myself. Oklahoma State, I mean, I correctly predicted them to do the thing last year where when Mike Gundy goes into a season with expectations, they suck. When he goes into a season with no expectations, they're pretty good because the expectations are so low. Baylor at Oklahoma State in the end of September, that could be a big game for Baylor. Yeah, but overall, who knows what the Big 12? Hell, Cincinnati might win the damn thing. And it should surprise none of you. No one. None. Nada. I got one more thing on the Brent Venables topic, in terms of, because I mean, we should have said this
just
a little bit
one.
Just one more thing, I promise, and then we're only going to talk about running back rotations and should they happen? Running back rotations, should they be a thing? Next week on Through the Keyhole. But something we talked about before we started recording is just the compare the analogy to like Mario Cristobal at Miami in terms of the support that Brent Venables is receiving. Mario Cristobal played at Miami, is a part of the Miami family in that respect. Had a bad first year, and then last year, they went 10-3. So we'll see what happens with them if they fall back down to earth now that Cam Ward's gone. I don't really know what the expectation is for Miami, but if they have a bad year, does Mario Cristobal get the same support that Brent Venables, who didn't play at OU, but has been at OU for a very long time and is very much part of the OU family? I wonder if he'll get the same support. Wouldn't be shocked if he did, because Cristobal does win like the offseason. He's like Mac Brown in that respect. He was Mr. February, but during the season is a different story. And Miami's expectations, I don't know what they expect them to be. I'm sure some think that they should be 80s Miami every year, and others are just like, we're just happy to watch football. So who knows?
Sorry. Okay. God, that's twice. Okay. So I think with Cristobal, like this is his 4th year. He started the same year as Brent, right? So this is his 4th season, 10-year, $80 million contract. So he's probably owed, somewhere in the range of 40+ million. And now I mean, just assuming the full thing's guaranteed, Miami, they could probably handle that. But I mean, I think that, like for example, like if OU goes 6-6 this year, I don't see Venables surviving that, right? If Miami goes 6-6, I think Cristobal probably has a chance. I mean, I don't get the impression that there's a lot of dissatisfaction with Cristobal in Miami. And part of it being, they have made a pretty big commitment to him, and he's getting, to be fair, he is also getting a lot of support there now. I mean, they're supposedly paying Carson Beck $4 million this year. I doubt that's true, but I mean, I don't doubt that he got a fairly, generous deal to come play quarterback there. And I mean, they're killing, they to say killing it. I mean, they bring in a lot of guys in the transfer portal, year in and year out. This year is no exception. I think they brought in something like 7 defensive backs already. So, I mean, like I do think they're getting support. He's getting support there. It's just Cristobal's a great guy for having in the living room with parents, but or picking up commitments from kids, and selling the program. Not necessarily the guy you want calling the shots on the sidelines on Saturdays.
Yeah, not a fan of his at all, but we don't have to worry about him. At least not yet. I don't want to do the last topic. We can save that for, and where are my manners? Obviously Peyton's not on this episode. Totally forgot. Sorry, Peyton. Peyton was busy tonight, so hopefully we get him back next week. Matt, do we know the schedule ahead of time? I know the Thunder are playing Wednesday. Yep. Then they play Friday.
We have
game
Wednesday,
3.
Friday, game 3. Friday,
so does that
back
mean
in Denver?
Are they doing, is game 5 Sunday in the event that there's a game 5? Because I mean, if you read Thunder Twitter, there won't be a game 5.
Well, I think, let me see. That would be game 4, I believe.
Yeah, I see game 4 on Sunday,
Yep.
and then game 5 would be on Tuesday.
Right.
Oh, so if there is a game 5, we won't have one Matt Burton.
I know. Well, we hope there's a game 5. We hope that there is, and hope that it's Thunder closing it out because they just won 4 straight. I think that's what they're good. Just won 3 straight, going to win 4. I think that's what we're all hoping for here in Thunderland.
That's the hope.
What a weird set of games last. I mean, Boston blowing that lead.
Dude.
Then good night.
The Pacers beat the Cavs in game 1. The Pacers are getting smoked right now, but but still, craziness.
Boston is when
that was the most Boston thing ever. Wasn't like Celtics thing ever to do that.
How many did they break the record for missed threes
In a playoff game? Yes.
Good. Screw them.
Yeah.
I hate the way they play basketball.
The math equation. The Boston
so
math
boring.
equation is what I call them.
Oh, yawn. Jason Tatum.
All right, come on now.
Yeah.
We don't need
for God's sakes.
We don't need to hate on a good Duke gentleman, okay?
Did you stand for Kyrie Irving during his his Odyssey?
What are you talking about?
Which Odyssey are you talking
Yeah,
about?
which
I was gonna say there have been so many.
Which Odyssey? The time where he was the hero or the sirens?
Guys, he's just posing questions about the question of the roundness of the earth that we inhabit. He's posing questions.
There's nothing wrong with asking questions. Socrates did it all the time.
This is the era of there's nothing wrong with asking questions, right? I'm just asking questions.
Do your own research, man. Kyrie Styles.
Yeah, like if you're sitting there like screaming at your podcast speaker, whatever that may be, and asking yourself, why are you talking about like Britt Vittles getting fired, guys, if you don't even think we're going to suck so that we won't fire him anyway? It's like, well, I mean, what the hell else are we going to talk about? Oh, I've got something we can talk about. Sharon Moore got suspended for 2 games, but it's not going to be the OU game. This reminds me of Urban Meyer coached football. Takeo Spikes did something bad. I can't remember what he did and got in trouble because it's Urban Meyer football. And Takeo Spikes is actually kind of a cool person. Played for the Miami Dolphins for a little bit. But he did something bad and we're going to suspend him, but just for the first half of the next game, not the second half, because I think they were playing like Ole Miss or something, like they were playing some conference game. It's so funny that not that Sharon Moore is, like I'm gonna take a 2-game suspension, but not the OU game, so not week 1 and week 2, because I guess they have to be consecutive, so it can't be week 1 then week 3, because that would be 2 on the nose. But he's like, I will willingly fall on the sword for week 3 and week 4. One of those weeks is Nebraska. So don't you ever sit there and tell me that Nebraska's still a blue blood. No, they're not. Because we've got coaches that were previously on the hot seat that had to take a suspension. And they're like, Let's see. Toledo. Yeah. Yeah. Screw that. I don't need to worry about that. They can win that with auto sim coach.
Maybe he just wants to come back to his alma mater. Maybe he was like, "Hey, it'd be nice to
that
come
also
back."
played into that. Also probably played into it. I've never really heard Sharon more. Not that we ever hear offensive line coaches talk to the media, and not that Sharon's ever been in a situation where he's been directly asked about his time at OU as a player under Bob Stoops. Maybe he has, and I've just missed it. But in his time as head coach, he's definitely not been asked about it. But that's definitely going to be something he's going to be asked about as we get closer and closer to the season. I'm very curious to just hear about what he, as a former player, but now as a sitting head coach at an actual blue blood, truly thinks about his time at OU, or how he feels about being like a Sooner, because he's coaching at a blue blood at Michigan, where if you're going to be a head coach of a program like that, you have to just eat, breathe, and shit Michigan football, and almost divorce your previous life as like, that's not me anymore. I'm all Michigan. So I'm always interested when things like this happen, because from what I've read, just as an example, from what I've read about Darrell Royal, he loved OU, especially when Bud was there. And it really kind of hurt him to start destroying Bud Wilkinson once Darrell got that thing rolling at Texas at the end of Bud's career. It really hurt him. But what really made Darrell like a Texas head coach who hated OU was Barry Switzer.
Yeah, despised
just
him.
Beat the living shit out of him. And he did it. I'm going to say it in the most PC way. He did it with flash and pizzazz on his team, compared to the buttoned up nerdy version down in Austin. And Darrell didn't like it. And that's what made him hate OU. So I'm curious what Sharon Moore thinks.
Would he be your favorite head coach if he was like, my time in Norman was great, but God, what a shame that they've let it go to this. Like, what if he was just like, God, it's in the shitter now, guys. Like, I don't know I don't even recognize this program anymore.
I would get on here and say he's not wrong.
Yeah, right.
I don't disagree. I'm very angry about this. I should be mad at him for disgracing my program, but I don't disagree. But I mean, is this who's enforcing this, Alan? Because the NCAA has no power anymore.
Well, I mean, the NCAA, I believe this is related to the Connor Stallion stuff, right? I mean,
yeah.
So this is one of those, we're going to suspend him 2 games, because when the NCAA does finally hand down a decision, they can say, well, we took this seriously. We suspended him for 2 games. How much more does he really need to do? Or what more of a price does he need to pay here?
I don't know. It's just, I saw that and I was immediately bummed, because I thought, oh, he's not going to coach it. He's not going to coach in our game. And therefore he probably won't be in any press conference to where he would be able to answer these questions, because I'm genuinely curious. But I don't know. I'm happy for.
And this is like a legit suspension. Like, from what I understand, I mean, he'll be literally off. He can't be at practice, none of that, for 2 weeks. So as soon as the OU game's over, he's, on the side, at home, I guess, not even on the sidelines.
What a weird world we live in this college football sport thing. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. Guys, is there anything else like college football? Because I tried to find some topics, but maybe because the spring portal closed. And again, as a reminder, because I feel like every podcast has had to remind people, it closed, but that doesn't mean that the players that are currently in the portal cannot commit. It's just you cannot enter the portal if you were previously not in it before last week. So I guess there's still that tight end out there that could sign with OU, but I don't know if OU would really want them, even in this state. But is there anything else of note that we've missed?
Not that I think. Of.
Yeah, man, we were very, very thorough.
Some would argue too thorough.
Indeed. Too
thorough. Alan, I mean, real quick, what's your read on the Thunder? I mean, for the Thunder fans that are listening to this podcast that are also OU fans, are you hitting the panic button? Are you like, nah, it's going to be a 6 or 7 game series anyway?
Well, as someone with a substantial financial position in the Thunder,
what you should say is somebody with a financial investment in the Thunder. I cannot comment further.
Yeah, but I mean, look, there is something about the playoffs in the NBA where like some teams have a lot of grit, right? Like you really, I mean, look at like what Golden State did the other night to the Rockets, right? I mean, like that felt like very much kind of an old man type, like you guys don't know what this really takes, So Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, I mean, those guys do, right? That would be my concern is like knocking out Jokic. That's not necessarily easy. But I still think Oklahoma City has the better team here. And, Denver's been so, I don't know, just up and down. It feels like this season, despite Jokic maybe having his best year ever. I still like Oklahoma City, but that you don't want to give away games like that. That's just
Give away a
rough.
home game.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, whatever you think about basketball, switching over to basketball philosophy of like fouling when you are up 3 to send the team to the free throw line, regardless of where you're at on that. My entire point last night was there was a moment where Adelman subbed out Nikola Jokic, did not have any timeouts left, and the Thunder let him off the hook.
Yeah,
and because they fouled immediately, they let David Adelman they made a rookie mistake, and Mark Dagnall let him off the hook with a Thunder. So that's what okay. Their whole philosophy, the Thunder have done this the entire season. Entire time, Mark Dagnall, if they're in a situation, they're going to foul up 3, make you shoot free throws.
Everybody does that.
There's a lot of people that do that. I was not my basketball philosophy growing up. We did not foul up 3. We were gonna let the play defense, rely on the defense. But I totally get it. Like I totally get the fouling up 3 thing. A lot of people do it. It's a math equation, right? It's a total math equation. I get it. But I think there has to be some flexibility when 1, you have a 3-point lead, 2, you have the best defense in the entire NBA, and 3, Nikola Jokic is not on the floor, and there's 10 seconds left. They don't have any timeouts. So, hey, let's just see how this plays out. The worst thing that can happen is they hit a 3 and you go into overtime and you play more basketball. That's the worst thing that can happen. But I like the Thunder's chances. They had just gotten a stop a little bit earlier before that, where they scrambled. It was chaos, and they got a rebound. SGA goes to the free throw line to hit 2 free throws. I like the Thunder's odds at getting a stop with no Jokic and 10 seconds left there.
Yeah.
That's something where someone has to grab Mark and be like, hey, let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I was asleep. I didn't watch it live. I found out about everything by reading about it and then forming an opinion in my mind of what it looked like. And then I watched like a highlight reel. And the thing that shocked me was how quickly they fouled.
Yes.
I thought,
that was like if you're going to do that, you have to run some time off.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's what I assumed. Like they did everything by the book.
No.
But they fouled like damn near immediately, and it's like, oh god! It didn't even register to me that Alderman had already taken Jokic off the floor. I'm like, oh god, that's added to the equation. This is bad. I will say, for people out there that are like potentially questioning like the Thunder's playoff acumen or their lack of experience, they had experience last year. They had experience the year prior with the play-in. Like what? Let's just do this really quick scenario. I like talking about basketball, so I'm sorry, everybody. But the Thunder with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, their expectations went through the roof for 2 reasons. One, Kevin Durant is probably a better player than Shea. Like that version of Kevin, he's probably, if they were all on the same team, Kevin's probably the best player. He's a athletic supernova freak of a basketball player. But that's no disrespect to Shea. Shea's awesome. He's probably the second best player easily in that weird version of a team. But that Thunder team had their expectations skyrocket because of Kevin's presence and because the Spurs got upset in round 1 against Memphis in 2011 and shout out to Peyton Guthrie. But if the Spurs hadn't been upset in that series, they would have mopped the floor with Oklahoma City in the second round, and there would have been no Oklahoma City just goes from a fun first round 6-game series against the Lakers as a young upstart team straight immediately to the Western Conference Finals and therefore like immediately to title contender. If they had gone to the second round and lost the Spurs in 5 or 6, people's expectations for that team would have been tempered. And I think to a more realistic standpoint, and maybe a lot of the pressures that ended up mounting that led to Kevin leaving, maybe those don't happen. All that to say is I do believe in the philosophy of getting like progressively becoming good. The Warriors did that. They got to luck their way into Steph Curry and Klay Thompson breaking their ankles for the first 3 years of their rookie deals to where they didn't have to pay them that much money. And then they were able to keep them and sign other big players. And then the cap spike happened. And then they were able to get Kevin Durant. None of these happen. None of these things happen if the Warriors, if Klay and Steph don't get hurt all the time and they, due to some playoff matchup fortune, find their way into the Western Conference Finals like in year 2 or 3 of their team. So at some point, like, we need to stop using lack of experience for the Thunder as an excuse. And one thing I will say, it's not like they scrambled and panicked at the end of this game, and that's why they lost. They did exactly what Mark Daigneault told them to do.
Right.
So,
and also make free throws. That's an understood one. Make your free throws, but
yeah, Chet not hitting his free throws.
But again, that goes into
flukish.
You extended the game for, I mean, you're putting pressure on them to hit free throws. Well, I mean, they're putting pressure on you too. I mean, they're putting pressure on you to do that and force the ball out of Shea's hands. Like, here's what it is. Shea gets fouled, goes to the free throw line, makes 2. There's 13 seconds left on the clock when that happens.
Yep.
The Nuggets shoot 2 free throws. Shea gets an open dunk, and the Nuggets shoot 2 more free throws, and then Chet goes to the line. Only 4 seconds came off the clock.
Yeah, exactly. You got to at least remove one possession from the equation there.
I mean, you extended the game for no reason when you could have played the last 10 seconds out without Jokic and let that defense work for you. And again, like I said, the worst thing that can happen in that scenario is they hit a 3 and you go play overtime. You don't get beat. Instead, you get beat. You get beat, man. That's crazy.
I would be more concerned if the players panicked. Chet missing free throws, to me, he's a good free throw shooter. Missing both of them, that's a fluke. And I guess you could sit there and argue like, oh, they ain't ready for the spot. I mean, I guess so. But I mean, shooting free throws as an NBA player, if you're a good free throw shooter, I mean, especially at home, I mean, come on, that's just, if you're going to count, if you're a Nuggets fan or if you're an anti-Thunder fan and you're counting on Chet or Shea or Jalen Williams to miss free throws, then I mean, go for it. And also, if you've listened to our podcast, especially since the playoff has been a thing, like the college football playoff, I have been adamant in my like, hey, having that bye week is not necessarily an advantage to me because you already have time off leading up to the start of the playoff. So everybody has time off to heal up. But then if you're the higher seeded team, you just get to play a team who just beat a playoff team a week before. Who do you think's the most confident team going into that game? That doesn't always equate to who wins and who loses. But as we saw last year, I mean, Oregon was a shell of themselves. Arizona State, who proved that they could be on the same field as Texas, it took them an entire half to kind of like wake back up. I mean, to me, like Chet and Jalen Williams didn't shoot the ball particularly well together. To quote Billy Donovan, particularly well. But I saw that as like, dude, they had like 14 days off and Denver just played 2 nights ago. Like one team is in rhythm. The other team is like, oh yeah, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
So
Oklahoma City started off 0 for 10 from 3.
Yeah. And I'll say just from a general like NBA standpoint, I'm always concerned if the road team, if the lower seeded team wins game 2, if they win game 1, to me, it's always kind of like, not fluky, but I don't feel like it ever really, unless we're in store for a historic upset, which I guess is on the table. Unless that happens, I've always seen like the road team winning game 1 is kind of fluky. It's when they win game 2, because being able to win game 2 on the road tells me that you adjusted to something, you found something, and then they didn't adjust to it enough to win, and now they've got to go adjust to your adjustment with 2 games at your home floor. So if the Thunder get back to what they were doing, the entire year and they show that they're the better team. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. has one fucking shoulder.
Yeah.
Like they have
Yeah.
4 other guys, and Russell's playing outside of his mind. And so maybe we are in store for a historic upset because God has looked down and said, Russell, you've had too much shit for your career. You're going to get your ring. And if that happens, I guess so be it for Thunder fans. But if the Thunder get back to doing what they're doing, they should win game 2, I think, kind of comfortably. And then I think all that momentum and hope for Denver kind of meets reality, and that there's Jokic and 3 or 4 other guys, and that's not enough depth. So we shall see. And also for Peyton Guthrie, if we're going to talk about the NBA, damn shame that Popovich has to hang it up for a head coach from a head coaching perspective. That's weird. I mean, we are all getting to the age now where coaches, players, figures like that have been a part of our sports fandom are retiring, moving on to something else, dying. It sucks. So is he the greatest coach? Is he the greatest coach of all time?
Oh,
You got to put him up there.
him or Phil Jackson.
NBA.
Either one.
Him and Phil Jackson. Yeah, him and Phil Jackson, 2 of the greatest coaches, and for 2 completely different reasons. And I think that both should be applauded. Phil's ability to juggle ego, which in the NBA means, I think, so much more than in any other sport. That certainly holds a lot of water. But Pop's ability to retain the core of a team for multiple decades in the modern NBA, small market, but win in a fashion that, while Tim Duncan is one of the greatest players of all time, Tim's not out there getting James Harden numbers, as a power forward. He's not out there. He did not get the numbers that he probably could have if he was on any other franchise that just gave the keys to him. Like, go out there and cook.
He's not like the first highlight package you turn on, right? Like, he's certainly not the first highlights you turn on to show somebody.
Oh yeah.
Like how many leading bank shots can you show?
That little 18-footer, like hesitation, pump fake, then just right off the glass. Every time it was money. But yeah, if Peyton were here, I'm sure he'd go on a soliloquy about old Pop. So we'll do that for him since he's not here. But everybody, thank you so much for listening to Through the Keyhole, even in the dark, dark days of the off season. If we've got some OU students listening to the podcast, have a fun, safe graduation this weekend, wherever you are. If you're at OU, if you're at OSU, if you're listening and you're an OU fan, you can be an OU fan and not go to OU. That's okay. We're not mean like that. But be safe out there this weekend as you graduate from college. Thank you to everybody
take some chances.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. And if you're not graduating from college because you just don't want to, or you already have, then, just still be safe.
Indeed. I'm just kidding, folks.
We need the listens and the downloads, quite frankly, please. We can't afford to lose. I'm just kidding. We're doing pretty fine. We're the 3rd best OU podcast, and we're proud of that.
A great graduation gift.
Ain't nothing wrong with
subscription. A Patreon subscription is a great graduation gift. Make sure.
Thank you to everybody that comments on the show on our Spotify page. Again, you can comment, leave questions, leave comments on each episode. We read through one earlier. We greatly appreciate you guys. We'll respond on Spotify or on the show like we did today. Thank you to everybody that continues to rate and review the podcast. I believe we got 2 more. Let me just double check right now. Oh, we got it. Did we get another one? We did. We got another one back in April, at the end of April. Thank you, everybody. Apple Podcasts, rate and review 5 stars. We will greatly appreciate that. And it helps the show. Keyholepod.com for Alan's writings, the blatant homerism column, patreon.com/through the keyhole. Like we mentioned at the beginning, Alan had a new Patreon interview pod with Alex Kirshner from the Split Zone Duo podcast. So go listen to that one. Yeah. And like we already mentioned, Matt won't be here next week. Matt, anything you want to say?
No, just Thunder up.
I guess for this city's sanity, yeah, everybody thunder up safely. All right. Well, for Peyton Guthrie, for Alan Kinney, Matthew Burton, myself, Brady Trantham, thank you for listening Through the Keyhole. Until next time, Boomer.
Later.